Today we're going to talk about what to do in the event of a traffic stop. A traffic stop can happen for a number of reasons. A police officer pulling somebody over to investigate an alleged crime or to follow up on some sort of a traffic citation being issued. So there's all kinds of reasons why a traffic stop could occur. What we're going to talk about today mainly is from the practical side of things, what to do in the event of a traffic stop. The first thing that you want to do if you are being stopped outside of the checkpoint arena, as soon as you see those blue lights, is try to find a parking lot or some other safe area to pull off into. So the next thing that you want to do is turn the vehicle off. Turn off your vehicle before the officer approaches. Just go ahead, once you're in a safe space, turn the vehicle off. If you need to move the car, you can always start it again and move the car. But if the engine is turned off, that's going to send a signal to the officer that there's no intent on your end of fleeing the situation, of pulling out when he gets out of the car. Stay inside the vehicle until the officer approaches you. A lot of times I'll see people that want to immediately jump out of the vehicle and go explain something to the officer or ask for further instructions from the officer before the officer exits his vehicle. The officer might be in the vehicle running a tag. The officer might be in the vehicle on another call. He might be checking up on some information before he exits. Do not exit the vehicle on your end until the officer instructs you to exit the vehicle. You also want to keep your hands in plain view if possible. So as the officer approaches the vehicle, you want to have your hands, if you can, up on the top of the steering wheel so that he can see the hands. If it's dark at nighttime, you want to turn on your interior lights so that the officer can see in the vehicle. It may not be possible if there's a tint in the window of the vehicle, but if you turn on the interior lights, again, these are all things that are sending signals to the officer that basically there's not going to be problems when he approaches the vehicle as far as his personal safety. We're trying to make the officer feel as safe as possible so that he can concentrate on getting down to the citation or other issues instead of being worried about you running off or worried about being injured or anything else. As the officer approaches the vehicle, you want to roll your window down and again then put your hands up on the steering wheel. Turn any music off. Again, doesn't matter what kind of music's playing, hard rock or classical. Turn off any music so that you can dialogue easily with the officer. One of the first things that most people expect when an officer comes up to the vehicle is, can I see your license and registration? So a lot of times people will have already jumped the gun on getting license and registration, you know, pulling something out of their back pocket, pulling something out of the glove box to get that registration and license. Don't get anything until the officer instructs you to get something. When you're pulled over and an officer sees you reaching into the glove box, he doesn't know whether you're going for a revolver or whether you're going for the registration. So do not try to get anything out of a pocket, out of something in the back of the car. Just wait for the officer to approach and he'll tell you what he needs. If he asks for your registration and you reach for the glove box, he understands that you're doing that in order to get the registration that he's just requested. When the officer does ask you for certain documentation, make sure that you're giving to the officer only what is requested. So if the officer asks for a license, give the officer a license. Do not give the officer a license and registration. If the officer asks for registration, don't give the officer license and registration. And there's a number of reasons for this. First of all, we want to show the officer that we can follow instructions, but particularly in certain types of offenses such as an impaired driving offense, if you're producing documentation the officer is not asking for, that can be used by the officer as a sign for impairment. The most important thing in getting those documents is, if you don't have them, which you won't because again you're going to wait until the officer requests that, is then ask for the officer's permission if you're going to get it from someplace other than where the officer can see. So if the officer says, I need to see your registration, tell the officer that is in my glove box. Do you mind if I retrieve that from the glove box? If the officer asks for your driver's license and you got to reach in your back pocket, sir or ma'am, I need to get that out of my pocket. Can I go ahead and get that out of my pocket at this time and give that to you? They'll say yes. And again, we want to make sure the officer is able to feel safe throughout the entire process. Be polite to the officer. This is something that has probably saved many a person actually being given a citation. When some people are pulled over, you know, there's again a lot of stress in being pulled over. This is typically only one out of a few times that somebody gets pulled over in their life. There's a lot of adrenaline running. Just be as polite as you possibly can be with the officer. Being polite can result in a different outcome in the court setting. Almost any time that somebody is polite and cooperative at the roadside, the officer in his notes section on the citation will write, person was polite and cooperative. So if you are polite and cooperative, that's going to be in the notes. Even if the officer is not in the courtroom when your case is addressed, the DA the district attorney is going to be able to look at the citation and say, the officer indicated this person was polite and cooperative, therefore I'm going to give them potentially a better outcome than somebody that is being aggressive and really making the officer's life miserable. Most of the time when an officer pulls somebody over, one of the most common questions that I see is, you know, do you know the reason that I pulled you over? And if you don't know the reason that the officer pulled you over, please do not guess as to why the officer pulled you over. Wait until the officer has explained what the reason was for pulling you over. If you don't remember or don't know why the officers pulled you over, say, I don't know why you've pulled me over. Even throughout the process of being polite, cooperative, it is okay to say, sir, madam, do you mind why I ask why you pulled me over? That is an appropriate question. It's okay to ask that question again. Don't be aggressive with it. Don't be angry. Just say, do you mind if I ask why I was pulled over? That is a legitimate question. The main thing you want to focus on in a traffic stop is making sure the officer feels safe. If you are, in fact, stopped per a traffic charge, as soon as you're able after the charge, you can always consult with an attorney about the specifics of your particular situation. But again, the focus at the roadside should be to make the officer feel safe.